Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. So the other day I was milling, and right as I was finishing up, the driven wheel started jumping and the blade would move about 2 to 3 inches right to left, and then it would tighten back up and everything would seem normal again. So I'm going to try and recreate the problem and find out what it is and get it fixed. Thanks for watching. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this up to 20 foot-pounds. I've been using 22. There it is, 20 foot-pounds. But the thing with these mills is it's kind of just experiment upon experiment until you find what works great. Okay, I'm going to start this up and run this mill while you guys watch the blade. And let's make sure that we don't see that thing. What this did was it basically was like all of a sudden all the tension came off and this wheel would actually move that way. It would like jump that way for just a second and then come back. Well, in the meantime, of course, obviously the blade got extremely loose and that blade walked out about 2 inches. So I don't know what that was about, but I'm going to go ahead and keep milling and see if we see it again. Okay, we'll see if that wheel stays straight. Okay, so whatever that issue the other day was, seems to be gone. Mystery problems, as long as they solve themselves, I don't mind them. Okay, and one of the big things that I noticed from this side, because obviously I didn't have the door open and I wasn't standing up there, but this bracket, when that would jump, I saw it move in and then back out. It was like there was no tension on this rod whatsoever. And what I thought was maybe a nut had fell off the end of this stack of thrust washers maybe, or something was going on in there, and I was going to take that apart and check it out, but it's not doing it now. So if it pops up again, we'll dig into it further. Otherwise, it never happened. Okay, let's get this thing thrown on the mill. Okay, this side facing up is fairly straight. The side against the bunk, up against the stops, is fairly straight. But on this side, there are two large limbs that have got blurbs on them. So I'm going to try and slide those around to the top to cut them off with the first pass. The trick to using these PVs, thanks to the people that watch the channel told me, take the PV, set it on top, slam it into the log, then rotate it. Okay, so I'm going to make my first cut there. So hopefully you can see this side is pretty straight. The part on the bottom is pretty straight. This does have where these limbs were here, but on the very top I've got a large bump out, and on the right side I've got a large bump out. So this will be my first cut here. We'll rotate it 90 degrees, and getting rid of that will be the second cut. And this bump out, I think, is far enough past the bunk that the bunk will be sitting here where the log's fairly straight. So not a perfect science, but it's fun and it makes nice wood. Okay, and the nice thing is we seem to have gotten rid of the wasps that were making our life miserable last week. Let's fire this up. Okay, I think I'm running out of gas. Okay, let's get some gas in this thing. Okay, and my setup for putting gas in this thing is I just set my gas can up on top of it, and it is easier to do when the mill is lower. But I use a Harbor Freight 2D cell battery fuel pump to put gas in here. What I like about the pump is you can see the gas going in, so it fills pretty quick, but it's also pretty easy to not overfill your gas can or your gas tank. And if you overfill that gas tank, what I've seen is it sits there and it, you know, as the motor vibrates, it sloshes gas out the vent and makes a royal mess, and could be a fire hazard. Definitely the last thing you want to do when you're milling wood is turn yourself into a Roman candle. Okay, it took longer to set up than I usually take, but let's get this thing going. I've got my hearing protection on if I'm yelling, and the fan's running because it's gotten fairly warm out here. We've got our sawdust tractor set up, and we're ready to rip. Let's go. like cutting with a fresh blade. Let's get this thing rotated around and do the next cut. Okay, perfect. I can get locked in right there. Looks good. The log stops are squared up to the log. I'm going to drop this one just a little bit. I'm not in any danger of hitting it, but I'm going to cut up here. Let's just make sure. All right, ready to rip. Okay, and here's the big reveal. All right, and this might be a problem here. Big hollow spot. But it's got really pretty grain in it. And the nice thing about cutting them at 10 foot is I need a lot that are 8 and 6. In which case, this knot here isn't going to make any difference. And Maggie's artistic little arts and crafts stuff, she might be able to do something with that and like whatever, you know, fill it with epoxy or something and probably do some kind of art project. So very little goes to waste out here. All right, let's turn this one. Okay, so I got about half that log cut up into 10-inch boards, and 10 and a half is actually what I've got. And then going that way, it's right at 6 inches. But we're going to use a lot of this maple for trim, and most of those boards are either 3.5 to 5 inch, depending on what she's making. And so instead of continuing to cut these 1-inch slabs off this way, I can turn this up and maximize and get more boards. So I can get about 10 boards that are 6 inches wide if I flip this up. So that's what I'm going to do. And the other strategic part of it, or whatever, is this side is a completely clean edge, except for down at the very end there. So that's a nice straight edge. Will make a nice board. This side has much more of the roundness and bark left on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this side down and then strip those off, and it'll give me more boards, because the last couple boards, a lot of times I might leave like 1.5 inches thickness. So that 1.5 inches thickness will be on a board. We'll be able to use it for something, probably a little live edge shelf or something, but we'll maximize our trim boards by putting this side down and cutting them off that way. And I'll go ahead and use a cant hook on this one, because it's a cant and I've got it. But honestly, I think that PV does everything I need to do quite well. So let's just roll this up. And be careful when you're doing this, because I have sometimes over-rolled them and they'll roll right off the mill. Okay, so I've got my stops up, even though they're low. And now I'll just slide this cant over without dropping it. To the stops. Okay, slide this one a little bit. And I'll put this about the same height as those stops on the other side. So I don't accidentally cut them. And then the last step is I'll make sure my blade guard over here is in the right position. So this will hit that stop before the blade does, if I don't pay attention. I always just try to pay attention, but I know that I failed in that on numerous occasions, and watching the forums, everybody else does too. So another good day of milling. Let's get this mill cleaned up and we'll go inside and take a look at the boards we made. All right, and here is our stack of maple boards that we made today. And I've got one really thick piece on top. I can feel the moisture in that. That's got to be at least 25% moisture probably. But anyway, we're going to make some furniture legs with this one. And then these are a bunch of 1x6s. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those. And then these are like 1x12s. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. So pretty good stack of lumber for a maple tree that fell in a storm. Okay, and we'll get all this process starting tomorrow, and we'll get it in the process of drying, which will take several months, probably at least 3 months. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching. I tried to show a problem with the mill that I saw the last time that I used it right at the end, and I couldn't make that happen again. So I love problems that fix themselves. I'll keep an eye on it and let you know if it ever pops back up again, but so far it's working great. And the saw blade, that blade that cut all this up, that's the second time I've sharpened it. So it cut just as good as it did brand new. So like I said, that has cut the price by a third basically, I think, right? If instead of buying it once, and anyway, I don't know. But I know this, sharpening those blades is fairly enjoyable, and it gives me, so far, 3 times the life out of that blade. So I like it. Have a great day and be safe.